All right, this is W.9, solve multi-step equations, all right? Um, really this lesson, final lesson for this quarter is a review of all the equation type stuff we've been doing. And so my recommendation to you is to please recognize that the strategies we've been employing are going to be all the strategies that you're going to be using from here on out when you have equations. So things to look for. You need to look for if distributive property is going to be required. You need to look for like terms if you're going to need to use that. And then you're going to need to use inverses to move variables or constants from one side of the equal sign to the other side. All right, so those things we're going to look for. I'm just going to go over different types of examples that are presented, but this is a review assignment. You have done all of this, assuming that you have done all the assignments before, okay? So let's look at our first example. Solve for z. I see that we have parentheses, so we are going to employ the distributive property. 2 times z is 2z, and 2 times -4 is a -8. Remember that negative sign goes with it. It's going to be a place where students might make mistakes. All right, now I see that we can combine like terms. I have a -8 minus 3. So when we combine like terms, remember the sign in front of the numbers go with it. So -8 minus 3 is now going to be -11. All right, it's a two-step equation. Even if you don't even know that, you do know that you can move the constants from one side to the other. We want to isolate z, so let's move this 11 to the other side by using the inverse, so they cancel out. 5 plus 11 is 16. 16 equals 2z. Now we can use the inverse to isolate z again. So 2's cancel out, so we're going to divide both sides by 2, and then 8 equals z. All right. Now, what I haven't been doing very much in my videos or during class, and mostly because we don't have the time, but a really good math student, well then once they get their answer, they will use substitution to check their answer, okay? So here we got z equals 8. So let's put 8, replace z with 8, and then let's resolve this. And then here we don't need the distributive property. We can solve it straight up because we have two numbers in there. 8 minus 4 is 4, minus 3. 2 times 4 is 8, minus 3. And the 8 minus 3 does equal 5. That checks out, so we know our answer is correct. Okay, that's my favorite thing about algebra, and especially about solving equations, that you always have a way to check your answer. All right, well, let's move on. All right, this next one, it just has the variables on two sides. Let's move all the variables to the same side. So let's subtract 10w here. 9w minus 10w is now negative 1w equals a positive 8. I'm going to multiply all of this by -1 so that we can get a positive w. And then -1 times 8 is a -8. All right. Okay, here, let's see what we can do. Oh, well, definitely we can use the distributive property. So it's a 2.54 w, we multiplied that, and then times 1. Ooh, so that's just plus 2.54. And then here's an extra plus 2. All right, so now I can combine like terms there. So I have 2.54W plus, and now we're going to get 4.54 and 0.62. Let's subtract 4.54 from both sides. So 2.54, whoops, I said 4 but didn't write the 4. 2.54W equals, ooh, I know we got to borrow for this problem. So I'm just going to use a calculator, 9.62 minus 4.54, 5.08. So now let's divide both sides by 2.54 so that these cancel out. So W is isolated now. And then divide both the other side by, whoops, 2.54. 5.08 divided by 2.54 equals 2. W equals 2. All right, let's look at what's going on in this one. Well, this one, let's see, there's no distributive property. We can combine like terms though. Right? I got k's on both sides. So it's like 5 kittens plus a kitten. So we got 6 k's on the left side. Oops. That was a little messy. There we go. Now let's see. You can move anything you want using the inverse. I just really like moving variables onto the same side though. So I'm going to subtract 5k's there on the right side. So I'm going to subtract 5k's on the left side. So we have -1 plus 6k minus 5k is just 1k equals -6. All right, so now we have a 2-step equation. Let's move this constant to the other side. So positive k equals -6 plus 1 is a -5. All right, there we go. And that should be the last. Oh, that's not the last example. Of course, I gave myself a really long one. I think this came straight from the challenge zone. So what should I do here? It's super long. You can definitely do the distributive property right now. But you know what? I'm gonna change what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna change this. I know I said, you should probably just do things the same way so it's easier, but I want to simplify this before I start other work, okay? So I want to simplify this by combining like terms on the left side. So 5h, we have 8.94 minus 4.48, 4.46 positive. 4.46 equals 9 times 0.1, negative 0.1 minus 3.45 plus 3.06. All right, so my equation is a little shorter. Now I can use the distributive property here. We could have done that in the beginning, of course, but I just didn't like it really that long. So let's see, 4.46, 9 times, that's going to be a negative 0.9h. And the sign goes with it, so that's a negative sign there. 9 times 3.45 negative equals negative 31.05. Negative 31.05. Yeah, interesting. Plus 3.06. Now I'm going to combine like terms again here because I see those two numbers here. Or two what? Constants? Or just set numbers? Alright, negative 0.9h. Alright, so we have negative 31.05 already in the calculator. We're going to add 3.06 to it. Negative 27.99. So minus 27.99. All right, let's move there. See how our equation is getting a little shorter? We're simplifying it. Let's use the inverse now to move it to the other side. So they cancel out there. It's just 5.9h plus 4.46 equals negative 27.99. Okay, we can't do anything yet until we solve this two-step equation by working towards isolating this variable. So we're going to move the 4.46 to the other side by using inverse so that they cancel out. They form 0 there. 5.9h equals, we have negative 27.99 minus 4.46 equals negative 32.45. Negative 32.45. All right. Now we're going to use the inverse again to finally isolate the variable h. Okay, so h, because 5.9 divided by 5.9 cancels out, so h is all alone on the left side. Divide the other side by 5.9. So see, negative 32.45 divided by positive 5.9. Oops. 5.9. Make sure we're typing it correctly in our calculator. Equals negative 5.5. And there we go. It looks like a really tough problem just because it was super long to begin with. It requires a lot of steps to do. But eventually we keep utilizing the same strategies repeatedly until we finally get the variable isolated, and then we arrive at our final answer, okay? So especially this last example, please rewatch it. Please try to, while you're just watching it and listening to it, try to understand where I'm going with it. And of course, we could have started it by just using distributive property first, but I chose to combine like terms. You could do it either way. It really doesn't matter. All right. Well, good luck on this. Make sure that you're using a sheet of paper. It does take a lot of work. Use a sheet of paper, write your work neatly, and make sure you're using calculator so that you're not making any simple calculation errors, okay? All right. Good luck on this assignment.